Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we're going to continue our study of math properties. And before we begin, something to put a smile on your face. I thought this was hilarious that this person's walking their fish. Never seen such a thing. And I am a true fisherman, but I've never seen walking a fish before. At this time, make sure that you have your math journal as well as your vocabulary packet. To begin, let's just go over our different properties. We have distributive property, and we needed to remember the word introduce because we introduce a number to other numbers. Then we have the commutative property, and this property we had to remember the word order because we were switching the order of the numbers to find an answer. Then associative property, we switched the group of numbers so that we could solve or find the answer to the problem. One way to remember it, we talked about American Sign Language and how, and then, different signals to remember those. But also, I came up with this saying just so that you could remember at least the initials that go together, like don't inhale, DI for distributive introduce, chocolate Oreos, CO, without a gallon, associative group of milk. And hopefully this will help you at least keep the words together that need to go together, because the two that get mixed up the most is the associative and the commutative property. Okay, so try to keep those straight. I do want to go over one other property that's not a target, however, it is a very important property because we use it often, and it's called the identity property. Identity property is basically where a number keeps its identity. So there's a symbol for I, and then this guy is showing his face because he is keeping his identity. And so when we work with the property, that's what a number does. It keeps its identity. So if we work with zeros or ones, numbers keep their property or keep their identity. So 6 plus 0, it keeps its identity of 6. 6 times 1, it remains 6 because it kept its identity. And 6 divided by 1, it kept its identity of 6. Okay. Today, we're going to be working on this target, and we are going to be using the different properties to evaluate expressions. And today, you will be able to use all three of them and in order to evaluate an expression. And sometimes you use even more than one in a problem, just depending on, if you need to switch the order, switch the groups, do both. And then distributive, usually it's already set up as a distributive property, so it's not one that we would probably switch the order or switch groups. Okay. But I know associative and commutative property, I know you can switch the groups and switch the order with some of the expressions. So let's look at this. We're trying to make these problems easier for us to do in our head. And so if I have 3 plus 17 plus 50, in my head I am thinking, hey, I don't want to do the 17 plus 50 first, because then my answer, my sum would end with a 7, and I don't want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the order, or not the order, I'm going to switch the group. And what property is that when you switch the group? Yes, associative property. And so I am going to write down to myself that I use the associative property. I'm going to make a note to myself. And so now I can actually solve this, and I know that if I take 3 plus 17, I get 20, and then plus 50, and my answer is 70. If I can write this, 70. Okay. Now, let's do the next one. If I have 48 plus 16 plus 12, 112, which numbers could I put together? Can I switch the order? Can I switch the parentheses? Do I need to do both? Notice the 112 is not right next to the parentheses. So it's not something that we can use the distributive property with. Distributive property, the number is actually right next to the parentheses, and then it can be introduced to the numbers inside. And so looking at this, I'm thinking to myself that, hey, I think I'm going to move the order. I'm going to do 16 plus, and then I'm going to move the group too. I actually want to do 48 plus 112 first. So I'm going to put parentheses around it. And then I'm going to add the 16. And so what happened was I switched the order. That's associative. And then I also did commutative property. If I can type commutative property. And I did both of them because I switched the order and I switched the group. And now I can solve it and I can find that 48 plus 112 is 160. And then if I add 160 to 16, I get 176. Okay, next one. If I do, well, this one I have a number on the outside of a group and it's right next to the parentheses. So I know that I can use the distributive property. So I'm going to distribute the 5 to the 6 and the 5 to the 3. And I am using the distributive property. And so I know that I get 5 times 6 is 30, minus 5 times 3 is 15, and that equals 15. And so made it so much easier to break it down into those small multiplication problems so that I can solve it. At this time, your ticket problems are the following. I would like for you to evaluate these following expressions, and I want you to tell me what property do you think you used, or properties. Sometimes you may use more than one, but which ones did you use to figure these expressions out? Thank you so much for joining me at Carleton's Math Corner, and I look forward to seeing you next time.